Hello, hello, and welcome to Roots and Branches Adoption Stories here on KFred Radio. I'm Janet Monroe, and I'm a birth mother. Question for you. Do you know how many children in your community will go to sleep tonight still waiting for a safe place to call home? My guest today, Genelle, knew the answer to that question and set out to make a difference. Genelle, I'm so happy that you could make it with us today and that you can tell your story and hopefully affect others and make other people think about the things that you've done and what they can do to help in this situation. So please
Yeah,
just start talking.
I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to join you. This is my first time to do this publicly, and so I'm pretty excited about it. I've had a lot of people ask me questions, but never got to be on a public avenue like this. And so, thank you for letting me come up and share my story. I am a huge fan of adoption. I've I, my story is kind of a different one, and it's not going to be a typical one because a lot of people have asked me to lead them through the same thing that I did, but I can't say that I can do that. But I'm sure you found that out as well. Every story is different. Every story is different. Every family is different. And we were a little different. So I birthed three boys. I was 50 years old when we ended up adopting. And but my kids were grown. My youngest one was 14, and um, we just, I don't know. I can't say I was totally directed by the foster care system, even though that's become very heavy in my heart because there's such a need out there fostering, and I'll go into it in a minute. But I was kind of always said, if God dropped a baby in my lap, I would take him. That's just what I said. I always said that. And then when we had the three boys, I thought that was it. I'll never be a girl mom. I'm a boy mom, and that's just the way it's going to be. And boy, what a change did I get! But I just thought I'd be a boy mom forever. And when my youngest, like I said, was 14, um, I had a friend who was a counselor at a drug rehab place, and she had a little girl that she knew and counseled and was very close to, and she said she had just found out she was pregnant. And so let me step back a little bit. When I first got it, the sense that I was supposed to adopt, I thought I was going to adopt internationally. I thought that I was going to adopt a baby from Haiti, and that totally fell through. And man, my heart was broken. And I thought, that's it. That's it. Whatever. For some reason, it's closed. I don't get to do that. But I got to thinking about um, into the Bible. So Janet, just to let you know, I'm into the Bible, and there's a story about Moses in the Bible. And when Moses went to lead the people out of Egypt, God said, "What's in your hand?" And it was just a staff, just a simple staff, nothing fancy. It was a staff. And I felt that strong in my heart, what's in your hand? And the only thing I could think about is my state. I live in Arizona. Arizona's in my hand. That's where I'm at. That's where I can be. And so I started researching and got involved in the going through classes for foster or adopting. And I will tell you, it wasn't an easy road. I don't know how many of your listeners have done that, but it's a very startling classes when you go through them. It's very heart wrenching classes because you hear all the cases. You have to go through them, you have to hear them, you have to hear what happens to children, you have to hear the worst case scenarios, you get to hear them. And I would end up crying on the way home in a lot of the classes because they would ask us a few things. One, they would say, "Are you going to adopt or foster?" And I didn't know what that meant. My heart kept saying no on fostering, and it said yes on adopting, but I kept thinking that was my mind. That's what I'm comfortable with. That must be why I say that. And I just had a hard time. But in November 2010, I was, like I said, my friend called me up and said, I have a little girl who's pregnant. And she was thinking about abortion at that time or something. She didn't know. And my friend was like, you need to talk to Genelle. That was it. Don't ask me why. That's what she said. You need to talk to Genelle. And so she called me up and she said, would you talk to this little girl? And I said, yes, I will. I don't know what that meant, but I knew that I wanted to be if I could be the answer for her, I wanted to do that. And so we made a date. Nobody in her family knew except her aunt and her cousin. That was it. And we made a date to talk January 9th. And we sat down and talked. We were in an outside cafe. We sat down and talked, and my friends were there, and her aunt and cousin were there, and that was it. And then they all stepped away and left us alone to talk. And I talked with the little girl. And at the end of the conversation, she just said, would you adopt the baby? And I said, yes, I would. And so, just to say a little bit, because people always ask me, what'd your husband think? When I started to walk out the door, I never told him a word until I started to walk out the door. And I said, I'm going to go meet a little girl and she's pregnant and I don't know what that means. And he said, do what you have to do. And so I was like, okay. And so when we sat there together and she said, would you adopt the baby? I didn't know if it was a little boy. I didn't know if it was a girl because she had not gone to the doctor. She just was pregnant. And I didn't know that. I didn't know if we were going to go through some, heavy duty detoxing for a baby. I didn't know what that looked like. But I felt like at that moment, I'm in, I'm all in. And so we said yes. I said yes. And we started the process. And I went from foster care, adoption, maybe what are we doing, to we have a baby coming. Now what? I'm 50 years old and I'm going to have a brand new baby. Um, we just started preparing. I went through the adoption agency, switched over from foster slash adopt to adoption, and went through the process. And um, I'm not going to say it was an easy process after that. It was scary because even after the baby was born, by the way, I met the little girl January 9th, the baby was born February 9th. And so I had 1 month to prepare for a newborn. I, I was 50, Janet. I was 50. my, my kids were grown. I'm like, starting over. It was a crazy road, but we just jumped in with both feet and said, okay. And we started preparing for this baby. And she was born. I was in the hospital room when she was born. I was there. I took the mom home because the baby had to stay in the hospital for 2 days before they would release her, just in case the mom changed her mind. And so all of that kind of stuff was nerve wracking when you're like, she could change her mind at any minute. And we were given guardianship paperwork, but that's it. And so we did not officially adopt her until November 19th. So between February 9th to November 19th, there's all those concerns of, is she going to change her mind? And if she did, that would have been fine. But man, it would have, ripped us apart if she had, because um, she was ours. That's what we felt, is she's ours. And
How old
um,
was the mother?
the mother was 21 and she had a 2-year old at home that her mom was taking care of because she was court ordered to be at that facility. She was court ordered. And so it was from alcohol abuse. So even though that's why she was there, I don't think we had any kind of alcohol abuse on that baby or not or at all. I don't really know. We went through emotional stuff and everything else, and I know I've talked to other people who've adopted or fostered, and there's all there's a lot of things that go on that you can't pinpoint all the time, and you and I talked about it as well. But there's um, a lot of emotional things that children go through. So Going back to your title, when you titled it, and it wasn't an open adoption. It was definitely an open adoption. I told the little girl, I said, I don't know the rules. So we're going to just make them up as we go. And so, as far as I'm concerned, we can do this together. And she was around, but not really. And then on the baby's second birthday, I had invited her for the party, our little party, and that was the last time I saw her. She just kind of melted into life and went back to her own ways, and still to this day has not, reached out, and I really haven't reached out either to her. I've checked her up. I did a deep dive to see if I could find her, and she still is in the area. And she had a couple more kids after that, and so that's things that adopted kids have to go through. Why did she pick them and not me? And um, we just keep going through that. Every time it comes up, every time those things come up, we just deal with it as it comes up. And so I know that's always a question people ask, because I can't. Um, I'm a control freak in a way, and so I tried to make sure I did everything right, but it doesn't matter. People are people, and um, as good as I tried to make sure that she had a protected, not feel all the emotions, I can't do that, right? I couldn't do that, and so I had to let some of that go. And so how I deal with it is just as it comes up, we deal with it. And so I don't.
How did your youngest son, how did adopting someone younger, a baby, affect your youngest son?
Well, he's probably unusual because he actually loved it, and he always wanted me to have another baby. He was not uh, like, it didn't have to be just him. He wanted somebody else, and he was the best big brother there was. He was wonderful. I still have pictures, and some of my favorite pictures with them together, and how he was just so loving, and played, and was, he's just a bubbly kid. And so, not a kid now, but he's such a bubbly kid that he just played with her. And but when he was little, he always asked me, he wanted a green baby. I don't know why he came up with a green baby, but he wanted a green baby. And so I couldn't do that, but he was very happy. Yeah, no problems. Probably my older kids questioned more than he did. He was fine. And so, they're the ones, they never said no, but they'll tease her relentlessly that they didn't have a choice and things like that. So she's kind of got a tough skin because of that, I think, because it's all a bunch of boys, and they don't give anybody a breather. And so, yeah, they teased her relentlessly. But yeah, the youngest one absolutely had no problems with us adopting her. He was fine. And so, yeah, it was
What
very
kind of
good.
questions does she ask you about her family?
So we've always been open. We've always been open. I never wanted it to be a surprise about adoption. I didn't want her to be in her, in the playground and hear this and somebody say, tease her about being adopted. Um, so I always used the word. I always made sure the word was used lovingly in our home, and we would even spend an extra party day on November 19th for Adoption Day, and so people knew it. They would talk about it, and she knew it. Can't say she always knew what it meant, but she knew the word, and so that was very important to me. When she got into that hormonal age, when around 9 or 10, she really started struggling with that, wanting to know who her birth mom. She was beginning to understand, and she wanted to know who she was, and um, she wanted to know about the dad. And I absolutely don't know the dad. I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything, but. Um, she would want to know those kind of things. So she did always want to know who her birth mom was, and um, she would ask if she knew I had her on my Facebook for a while, and so she would ask if she could see her. And for a while, it was easy for me to say, you know, Um, I'm not ready for that. And so, believe it or not, she was very easygoing about that for a while. And she would let me tell her that I wasn't sure if I was ready. And so I took it off of her and said I wasn't sure if I was ready and prepared for her to meet her, and that we would do it at some point. We would do it at some point. And so there was always that conversation. She knew that I was open to it, but not at that moment. And so I talked to her freely when the questions came up. I tried never to go past what her questions were because of her age. Um, I never have told her that her mom was considering abortion. That's one thing I won't do. I won't ever tell her that if at all possible. We'll see. She may ask me one day, and then I'll just have to tell her. Um, but if she asked me questions, I would tell her. So she would ask me, do I have any brothers and sisters? Yes. So I would have to tell her what I saw. Um, Her brother would come with the mom. Like I said, at 2 years old when we had the party, he was there. And so that was an easy conversation for me to share that he was there. And it was an overload for her. And she wasn't sure if she could handle more children at that time. I think the harder thing for her is finding out that there was children after. And I've just kind of walked through it with her, and I can't say I've done it right or wrong, but she seems to be okay. I think the hardest one is one time we're chatting, and we always chat in the car, and she wanted to know about her birth dad. And so I really didn't know anything about it. The mom told me one time, she gave me a name, and I can't even remember the name, just a first name. And she said he was from Mexico and he went back to Mexico and it was a one night stand. That's all she told me. And so at some point I said that he was Mexican. So now Esther, my daughter's name is Esther, she has grabbed a hold of that and talks, and for a while there wanted to go to Mexico to find him. And this is a 9-year old mind, who thought that she could just go find him. And that was probably harder. I probably wouldn't have done that if I had been thinking clearly. I would not have uh, I would sideswipe that conversation or something, because that was a little bit hard on her for a while, trying to figure out her birth dad. And she kept thinking she was going to go to Mexico. I want to go find him. And I'm like, and so for a while there, literally at that 10, 11, probably in that age, that was a very hard time for us. That was very hard because I was feeling all the things as the adopted mom, that the emotional things of knowing that she needed to know this information, but still it would hurt me, you know? And so trying not to protect myself, give her the information she needed. But it was a rough time. That was just a rough time. And so I had a friend who's fostered a lot of children, like 25 kids. And so she kind of walked me through that during that time of give her this information, go ahead and give her what she needs and talk to her about it and be as open as possible. And so I probably told her more things during that 10, 11 years old than any other time because she needed it. She needed it. And even though it was hard, because I was like, just love us. We took you, just love us. And that's what you feel like, but it's not my feelings. Of course, I had my feelings, but she has hers too. And so that was a hard time, that was a hard time. I didn't want to
I
take anything away from the mom, but it was still harm. It was hurtful, but at the same time, I had to make sure she had the information she wanted. So,
know, as a birth mom myself, once I'd given birth and my son was adopted, we were told to forget that we had a child. So
oh,
you kind of block it off and block it up. And those, you don't really think about what he's going through and the traumas that he goes through, because there was no such thing back then as a primal wound, or at least nobody talked about it.
right.
And so you don't realize. as a birth mom from, say, the 60s and 70s when I was, that these children, they go through so much trauma, and it has to be traumatic for the adoptive parents as well, because they're like you, they want the child to love them, but the
Yeah,
child has their own identity, which comes from two totally different people,
right.
and they don't have a mirror to see themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think the only thing, so one of the weird things that happened and sometimes happens with adoption is her and I look exactly alike. We look exactly alike. The birth mom could have been my daughter. I mean, that's how we're very similar. And people just never knew that she was adopted unless I said it because we look so much alike. Um, so that might have helped a little bit, but not completely. It's exactly what you're saying. I talked to her early on because I was studying psychology at the time. And so I would talk to her about nurture versus nature. And so we have those conversations to today. I mean, still today, about which is nurture and which is nature. And there'll be things that she'll do, and she'll go, "Well, mom," it's like, hello, you know, that's nature, not nurture. And so, even if it's not of me or whatever. And so she's super sharp. And that's one thing about it. I always try to talk the beauty about adoption, but you're so right. There are things. And, um, this is great that you do this show because people need to know. They need to know the beauty of it, but they also need to know that it's real life, right? You can't take apart something without some pain. And that's what happened. We took apart one and she melted. I always tell her, you melted into our family. This is a melting, and where there's nothing that can separate us, we're melted together. But it still tore, right? It still tore. She tore apart from one, even though I've had her since she was a baby. She knows no other. She knows no other father or mother. She doesn't know anything. We're it, flaws and all. I always tell her, flaws and all. we're, we're a family, flaws and all. And that gives permission that her mom had flaws as well, because none of us are perfect. And so we have flaws. And Esther, my daughter, has flaws, and we all have flaws, but we're melted together. And so, even though we're melted together, there was a pulling away and grafting, I guess, like a tree. You graft it into a tree, right? And it's got to be uh, a tearing thing, and there is hurt, so it doesn't go away. She's doing good, but there still is hurt that you have to work through. I think
She
that's
spent 9 months in her mom's stomach, belly. Um, she was attached to her mom. She heard her mom, had that voice. She felt the feelings that her mom was going through, had all that connection to her mom. And then all of a sudden, that connection is ripped apart.
yeah.
And that has to be traumatic for anyone. As I said, back when I was pregnant and gave birth to my child, we had no idea of these feelings that
Right.
the fetus can have, right? And that grows with them, and what happens when they're separated, and how there's a lot of people I talk to that have been adopted. They've had wonderful homes, unconditional love, and then they say it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough. And it's later in life, in their 40s, maybe, when they go through some trauma and they go for therapy. And they might go for therapy for a couple of years before they even mention that they were adopted. And basically, that trauma all stems back to when they were adopted.
and that and that's something you can't solve, and you try to. That's what I'm saying. I tried to make sure, even so I was very much into health and all of that, and so even to try to make sure she didn't have too much hormones in her food, I did all the natural stuff and the no milk and all of this kind of thing, trying to protect her, as because of what I knew. Okay, let's protect her as much as possible. But even with trying to protect her, you're not. And you're right. There's things that you just can't solve. You cannot solve. And it's not the fault of the birth mom. It's not the fault of the child. It's not the fault of the adoption family. It just is, right? It just is. There's nothing we can do about it except, like you said earlier, do the best you can. You do the best you can. And, I try to teach her, I think that one of the things I do is try to teach her mental toughness. And I don't mean ignore stuff, how to get through things, how to get through, because she's pretty emotional, but I try not to use that word. I would say she's passionate about things, but she could be very emotional. And so maybe that lends back to her birth mom, or maybe it lends back to that pulling away, right? That tearing away. It could be that. And so I've tried to teach her how to handle her emotions. I always say, don't let your emotions control you. You control your emotions. There's nothing wrong with those emotions, but don't let them take you over. And so now she's a pretty tough cookie, but still she has her moments, right? She's only 15. So that's a whole nother story. She's 15.
Um, it's really important. I think there's a lot of adoptees, for example, as I said, they have unconditional love from their birth parent, from their adoptive parents, and they want to know where they came from,
Yeah,
but they're afraid to say anything because they think their adoptive parents are going to think they don't love them because they want to look for their birth parents.
yeah,
But that's not always the case. So I really think that you have it right in that you're being open and you're letting her talk to you, and that any adopted parents needs to let their child get those emotions out and ask those questions and be able to get answers that are true as much as the adopted parents knows. Tell their truth the way they know it.
right.
I think it's just
I
so
agree.
important, and it's not something that, again, it's not something that we as birth parents from the 60s ever thought about, you know.
Right.
And that's why I really like doing this, because it's bringing out so many questions for me and opening up so much that I
Yeah,
had no idea about. And I'm hoping it'll does the same for every the people that are out there as well.
yeah. Well, one thing I had to do, and I'll just be, here I am transparent because it was, like I said earlier, it was kind of hurtful. It's hurtful because you're doing everything you can and think you are, even though I knew. So it's this whole battle of, I know she's not trying to hurt me. You're talking, even though you're not talking to yourself, this is what's going on. It's hurtful. So what I did was get other people involved. And so I did get her a counselor for a while. She needed it. And it helped so much. I told you about my friend who's fostered like 20 some kids, her and her husband, and they became a help not only to me but her. And so she'll go and she'll talk to my friend's husband like nonstop, blah 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 blah, about nothing, because girls need to do that. And he's one of those great people that's a listener, and because of having so many children come into their home that are constantly being torn from their families, they know kind of instinctively what a kid needs. And they're, like you said, they need unconditional love, but they need to talk about it. They need to know that it's safe. It's safe to be able to ask those questions. And so, so that's why I took that stance of, as it comes up, I will deal with it. And I've always told her, you ask me anything, I will be honest with you and I will tell you. It doesn't matter what it is, I will tell you. You have to ask me. And I said, even if it hurts me, I will tell you. And so she did. She did. She took me out, up on that, and would ask me things. And um, so today I feel like we're in a good spot. She's 15, but tomorrow it could be a totally different story. And I know that. I know that. And she's has a right to feeling all those things and wanting to know. And she asked me. She does. She asked me. At first, I didn't even tell her the name because the little smart cookie will go search it up and find that birth mom. And so eventually she's going to anyway. I know that. I'm ready for it. I'm prepared for it. And if it comes sooner than later, so be it. She's 15. She can handle a lot more now than she can at 9 or 10. And um, I don't think it was so much. I wasn't prepared if she went and found her birth mother at that time. But at the same time, I don't think the birth mom was ready. And I don't think Esther would have been ready. It would not have been a good time for any of them. They would have, everybody would expect something. And who are we to say what should be expected of somebody else? And um, the birth mom has not come forward. I have the same phone number, FYI. I have the same phone number that I did then. And I always told her, you can contact me at any time. I will take your call and we'll work through things, and I have no rules. And still to this day, that's the way it is. And so I have researched, saw where she's at. It looks like she's kind of stable now, which is nice to know. That's. I don't think people understand that, but as an adopted mom, I want to know she's in a good place, and that was very important to me. Um, that's why she was on my Facebook, but she was unfriended, or not unfriended, unfollowed, so it wouldn't pop up all the time. I didn't want my daughter seeing her because she gets on my phone. And so I didn't want her to see and go into her life right then until we're prepared for it. And I think she's a lot more prepared for it now. If she asked me more questions, if she wanted to see her, I don't know how that would go because, like I said, the birth mom has never reached out to me since she was 2. And so I don't know how she would feel about it. And so we'll see what happens. When it
See what
comes up,
happens.
we'll deal with it.
Everything happens at the right time.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that when your daughter's ready, if her mother's ready, they'll get together. If the mother's not ready, it'll take longer. You know.
Yeah.
So I had a gentleman that I spoke to. His name was Mark, and he did a podcast with me. And he knew he was adopted and that he had unconditional love from his parents, and got to the stage where he was having some troubles. Went to see a therapist, and decided that he would look for his biological family.
Mm.
He went to the Library of Congress, to the Yellow Pages for the year that he was born in the city that he was born, and found the name of all the adoption agencies and their phone numbers, and decided to start calling them. So he called them. Some were still in business, some weren't. But then he ended up calling this one, and the lady who answered the phone said, "Hello, blah, 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 this agency." And he said his name, and I'm looking for my birth records. And she said, "What did you say your name was?" And he told her. And to prove the timing was right, she had his file on her desk getting ready to archive it. It was the next file that she was going to.
Oh, wow.
So as I say, it's all timing. When things are meant to
Wow.
be, they just fall into place the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah.
you know I
Yeah.
had it the same with my son. I sent him a letter, saying, I think I'm your birth mom. If you're ready to meet me, fine. If you're not, that's okay too. It's all a matter of timing, right? And the time was right for us.
Hmm.
We had
Yeah.
that opportunity, and we were blessed with meeting and having a reunion. um, and it was great for the 6 years that he was in my life before he was taken from us again for a second time. But people have to know that sometimes you have to wait. And sometimes patience is the name of the game, and you have to wait until the timing is right.
Yeah. Well, if I could encourage your viewers to just see if it's something that they want to do, because what I was looking up the stats. Now, this is US stats, but in 2006, nationwide, there's 40, let's see, 331,000, almost 332,000 children in foster care system. That's as 2026. Um, it's not counting private. There's adoptions, but not counting private ones. There's 46,000, almost 47,000 children are adopted yearly in the U.S. But this is where it really gets me. This is really a big thing in my heart. Is there's over 18,000 youth aging out of foster care system yearly, and that touches me because there is such a need. Because we all know that kids adopting a newborn is a lot easier than adopting a middle schooler or a teenager or something. We know that. But these kids who are aging out of foster care system and have no one to go to. That's where it's really getting harmful. 18,000 youth are aging out of foster care system. Over a third of them will be homeless. Period. They're just homeless. They have nowhere to go. They don't have a safe place to go to. So I feel like even if I fail, even if I'm a complete failure as an adopted mom, my daughter knows that she can come back to me. Even if I mess up, which I do often, she knows she can come back to me if she ever needs to. But how many kids are going through and never have a safe place to come back to? And that's important, Janet. It hurts my heart because those are the kids who are getting, um, besides homeless, there's also high in sex trafficking with this, with foster age out kids, um, homeless, sorry, it makes me emotional. Drug abuse, high drug abuse, high, trafficking. It's so dangerous. And if we just had people that would say, "I'll be a safe place," even if they don't want to adopt. If they don't want to adopt or be a foster parent, if they could somehow get in the system, there are places that say, please come and help us. We need people that are stable, that these kids can start talking to and start becoming maybe not a family, but at least they know an adult that they can go to. I would love, I don't know. I have these big dreams of how to help out foster age out kids, but that's another story. That's another program. We'll
That's
say
another
that for
program.
another program. Because I can get very emotional about it. There's just such a huge need for children, and there's such an amount of children. That's just in the US. I don't know what it's like in Canada, but that's here in the US, that huge number. 7,600 right now in the foster care system in Arizona, where I'm at right now. Um, that's not even the highest number. California's got the highest number. Texas is next of fostering of kids in the foster care system. Like I said, there's 7,600 kids in the foster care system in Arizona, but only 3,000 licensed fostering homes. So the need is huge. The need's huge. And um, my daughter told me, she goes, it's easier for people to foster a baby than it is a teenager. Yes, dear, I know that. But there's a need, and I love that you're doing this because getting the information out, even if we're not perfect. I have this saying that I told all my kids, my daughter included, that if I was a perfect parent, you wouldn't need God. And so I'm not a perfect parent. They still need God. And I'll do the best that I can. And I'm just, I teach her just like I did the boys, and hopefully it'll all work out, but we'll see, right?
And you did say when we had our previous conversation that your husband was happy to have a girl.
Oh yeah, he loves this little girl, and um, it's softened him up a little bit. He needed a little girl.
Just mellowing in his older age.
Just we need that sometimes. We need that, but yeah, she's such a perfect addition to our family. I told my whole family, not just our immediate family, the whole family, that this was all of us adopting her. It wasn't just us. And they all, I mean, friends, I had friends that came out and believed that as well, and friends and family, and had a pretty good crew standing with us when we adopted her. And by the way, that was like, whoo, when we got to officially adopt her, because I talked to another mom, adopted mom, and she said the same thing. That time of having the child and actually legally adopting them is a very nerve wracking time, because you never know when someone is going to come and say they have rights to that child. And so, until it was legal, it really was a big thing when it became legal. We stood before the judge and said we do, was a pretty big deal, and we had lots of people there celebrating with us, and it was kind of cool. So
So
it's
when
something
you
to
had
celebrate.
guardianship, you had guardianship from when you took Esther home from the hospital.
Yes.
From that time until November, anyone could come and claim her, such as the birth dad or
Right.
um,
Yeah.
grandparents, or anyone had the right
Yeah. Yeah.
to come and take her
Well,
back.
we could have gone through, yes, and it depends, of course, that's all court. But I knew the birth mom wasn't going to. She made it very emphatically that she would not be doing that. But we still had to go through a period of time that we weren't even legal. That dad, who nobody knew, could have come out of the woodwork, and come for her, and that would have been horrible. Um, you know, but it's legal. That would be legal. He has a right to. We just didn't know who he was. So, I mean, it was probably a far-fetched thing for me to think that he might, but literally you have that angst inside of you that it could happen at any time, until
So,
that
to my
paperwork is.
knowledge, the birth father, if he's not married to the mother, has no
Yeah.
rights at all to the child, unless there's 32 states that allow them to register. It's called a putative registry, where they can register during the pregnancy and in 30 days after the birth of the child, so that they know if that child is put up for adoption or not. They can be made aware of it,
Yeah,
but they don't have any
we did
say
have
in
to
it.
do that. Right. We did have to do that. Yeah. Um, they put it in the paper. They did all of this where this was happening, and so yeah, he did have that certain amount of time. But I don't know why you sit there and worry until it's legal. I don't know, but I did. I you know I
I
just
think
I
it's
just
always until it's signed on the dotted line, right? We always have
right.
those worries.
Yeah. Yeah, and you feel like you're ignorant through the whole system, because you're like, even though they tell you certain things, you can't control some of your feelings, and that's what it was just feelings. But you do, and I did talk to another mom who adopted, and she said, "Oh yeah," she goes, "I until we went to the court and had it legal," she goes, "I was always concerned that somebody was going to make a decision, change their mind." And so, yeah, it's just, isn't that the way it is? Though you were talking about how the birth mom, the adopted mom, and the child, or parents, I should say parents, it's all the same thing. It's that tearing apart. It's the tearing apart. And so, even if you know that it's all good, you still have those feelings because it's that whole tearing apart. And so, even though it's beautiful, there's pain in the beauty. So, even a rose is so beautiful. Yesterday, I was cutting some roses to put them in a bouquet. And what did I do? I hit that thorn, and, it's like, ouch. Even though it's beautiful, and I believe adoption is such a beautiful thing, it's so beautiful that a mom would go ahead and give the child away. That's got to be so hard. And then the family adopt. It's such a beautiful thing. I really believe it. It is a beautiful thing, but it still has pain, right? There's still pain in the
There's
middle
still
of the
pain,
journey.
always
Yeah,
pain.
yeah.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about adoption today?
Um, I think that's it. That thinking, that if you do everything right, as an adopted parent, if you do everything right, and, whatever that means to you, that it'll all go super smooth and you got it perfect. And, I felt that way with my own birth kids. So let's just be honest. I think that's just a part of parenting. My first son was easygoing and such a good child. And I thought I was the best parent. I was like, oh, you did a good job. I should write books. And then I had my second child, and oh my gracious, I found out I was not that great of a parent. I had my second and third and realized that it was the child that was good, not me. And so, I think it's the same way, even with adopting, it's still, you do all the right things and there's still going to be problems. And it doesn't matter if you're birthing a child or adopting a child or fostering a child, there's still going to be some stuff. You're still going to have to work through things. So having a community having this kind of thing where people can get information and hear it from somebody else's viewpoint is so good. And having counselors and going to counselors and allowing your child to go to a counselor, which was hard for me because I was like, I don't know what they're going to say. And is this counselor going to be good? It was hard, but it was so good for her to just feel like I cared enough to put her where she needed to be able to say the things say the things that she wanted to say I want to know who my birth mom is, or I want to know these things. It was fine, it was good for her. And I think that's it. Thinking you got it all pat and figured out, you won't. You won't. There'll be something that comes up. And I think that's probably the biggest misconception. Because, like I said in the very beginning, I had lots of people say, would you do the same thing for me that you did? They wanted me to help them find a newborn baby that would drop in their lap. That was absolutely not going to happen. This happened for me. Don't ask me why. That's what it was. I can't do that for somebody else. There are lots of people looking for a newborn baby, and maybe they're the ones who need to take care of a teenager, or they're the ones who need to take care of a middle school student. Maybe they're the ones who have enough love and enough toughness that they could handle that, and they're looking for a newborn. There's no perfect little answers to do anything. You just got to be open to be what you're supposed to do. Be open to maybe taking a child in, because there's so many children out there that need a family. And so that's what people need to do, is just be open. Find out how many kids. Maybe you could be the one. And so anyway, yeah, that would be
What do you think would make a successful foster parent?
um, tough skin. I think they got to be a little tough, not be hurt at everything that happens, because that child is been pulled from one home to the next. Literally, literally, they get garbage bags of things and sent out the door. So I think having a tough skin, and then having help, asking people who are the right kind of people, who've already done it before you and treated the kids good. Because there's way too many. I had to stop scrolling earlier when I was looking about fostering, and how many kids are aging out and all of that, because the abuse that's happening in foster care system is horrible. And I had to quit looking at that, because I was like, this is too good of a too good of a program. We don't want to go there. And so fostering, they're looking for good families to help. They're looking for good families to take care of children, whatever age they are. And so a tough exterior, like some of us mamas have, Janet, you're tough. You're like tough. And that's what they need, I think, is to be a little bit tough and not be worried about, the attitudes that children have, because they do. They do have they do have attitudes, and they do want to push you away. And so, of course they do, because they want to be the one to push you away before you hurt them. And so, that would be, I think, one of the important things is be a little tough and not worry about when they start kicking back and being upset about things, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
And to be honest, it's not only the adopted children that push back as well. It's my
Right?
biological children. My daughter, who was my first born to my husband, um, she was, from the day she was born, she gave me trouble. She wouldn't sleep at night. She was always on the go, like just constantly, constantly. And I
Hmm.
put it down to what I did when I was pregnant. When I was pregnant, we had our own business. It was a furniture business. I would be on the road every day, in and out of the van, going to pick up stuff, constantly on the go, making deliveries, doing
Hmm.
whatever I had to do.
Right.
And then, and she was just like that, on the go all the time. She'd sleep in the truck, but as soon as it stopped, she'd wake up. That was it. Then when it came to my son, we had a store. We had a small furniture store. So I would go to the store every day, sit there every day, and I would be resting. I was pregnant, so I was resting. If a customer came in, I looked after them. I did paperwork and things like that. At the end of the day, I'd play a video game. Back then, it was Space Invaders. And I would play that for the last half hour of the day before I got out and drove home. So when my son was born, he was restful. Would sleep at the right times. He'd cry every night at 7:30 to go to bed because he was on that schedule. And as he got on, when he was about 4 years old, he got introduced to video games, and that was it. He was hooked. So I do think a lot of what we do when we're pregnant protects the child, which is why I can understand what they say about when a child is pulled away from the mom, that they have that trauma, because there's so much they learn from being part of the mom, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
But
That's a whole nother story too. That's an amazing thing. Very interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So I told that to my daughter-in-law. My grandson just turned 1 on Friday. And I told that to my daughter-in-law when I found out she was pregnant. I said, just make sure you sit back, relax, and get things. So their son is good. He's on a schedule. He's happy, relaxed, and
I just want to know: is your daughter? Is she an entrepreneur or what? What does she do now?
Yeah, she's an entrepreneur. Yes,
that's very
and
interesting.
always on the go.
Always on the go.
Always on the go. Yeah, she's in the Bahamas right now.
Oh,
working with the dog rescue. So.
Oh, okay. I love that.
She just left on yesterday, and she's there for about 5 weeks.
Well, I think that's exactly right. It doesn't matter if it's your birth kids or your adopted or your foster kid kids. Everyone they go through stuff. All of them go through stuff, and we have to be giving a little bit to our children when they go through stuff. I don't mean um, put up with the rudeness like people do nowadays. I don't mean that. You still got to correct them and all, but you got to understand they go through things. And so you're right. It doesn't matter if it's a birth kid or foster or adopt, they're going to go through something. So having a little bit of a community, and when you hear it, I'm a big believer in moms helping moms, because if we hear, oh, that's normal. Oh, yeah, my kid did that too. Then they don't get into their little anxiousness about, oh, I can't handle that. What's wrong with my child? They're just being children. They're just children.
They always push us to our limits, right?
Yeah, they do. Oh, really well. Yeah.
So if one family is listening today that's been thinking about fostering, but they keep saying maybe someday, what would you tell them?
Oh, I'd say now's the time. Now's the time. You just don't know who, you don't know what a blessing that child will be to you. I absolutely can't imagine my life without my Esther. And you just you just need to say yes. I'm a big believer. Just say yes. If you get out there and just find out the information, find out the children that need you, just get in the system, just find out. There's a couple things you have to do when you're in the foster care system. You have to go through classes. You have to do that. While you're doing that, the child might show up like it did with us, might show up. But if you never get out there and just go for it and see, it will be such a blessing in your life if you help a child. There's way too many children that need help. There's got to be more people saying yes. So I say yes. That's my thing. Say yes. Just say yes. It won't hurt you and it won't hurt the kid. You might have a little bit of, anxiousness. You might have the emotional roller coaster, but you'll live through it. You'll live through it. And a roller coaster doesn't hurt anybody. It's just got some ups and downs. So just do it. Just do it. I think it's too important. So.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from Genelle. You heard those figures. So she said there was 7,600 children around the Phoenix area that were looking for foster homes, but there's only 3,000 families registered. Can you make a difference? Can you open your home to a child who needs somewhere safe to land, like Genelle did? What would happen if every one of us simply looked up how many children need foster homes in our own community? You can reach me at rootsandbranchesadoptionstories.com or call me at 615-870-6433 and let me know your answer. I'm Janet at Roots and Branches Adoption Stories here on KFred Radio. Until next time, and thank you so much, Genelle, for being with us today. Loved your conversation, loved your passion for your daughter and for what you're doing and your passion for your community and what a difference you can make. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.